In fact, our brain is supplied by two main vessels. The first vessel is internal carotid artery, which is subdivided into middle cerebral artery and anterior cerebral artery. And the second vessel is vertebrovascular artery, which is subdivided into pica, posterior inferior cerebral artery, ica, anterior inferior cerebral artery, and other arteries, for example, posterior cerebral artery. And we also know that our brain is divided into lobes, for example, the frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, and occipital lobe. Each lobe has specific functions in specific areas, also known as areas of the brain. For example, the frontal lobe, which contains the motor area, which is responsible for initiation of voluntary motor activity, like moving your arm, and the Broca's area, which is responsible for speech production, and the parietal lobe, which contains the sensory area 1, 2, and 3, and the temporal lobe, which is responsible for hearing by the hearing area or auditory area, and last, the occipital lobe, which contains the visual area. And it is better to know that each lobe and each area is supplied by a specific artery. If this artery is stressed or gets stroked, then there will be a manifestation according to the location of the stroke. And this is a quiet definition of a stroke. Stroke is sudden cut of the blood supply from an area of the brain, given the manifestation according to that area supplied by that specific artery. So basically, we have two types of strokes. The first type is called ischemic stroke, and it is defined as focal neurological defect over 24 hours due to arterial occlusion. So there is a sudden cut of the blood supply that decreases cerebral blood flow and lead to brain infarction. This is the most common type of stroke, as it accounts about 85% of all strokes, and the most common cause of this is cerebral atherosclerosis. And the second type is called hemorrhagic stroke, and this is defined as neurological defect caused by a rupture of a blood supply, and this is caused mainly by the chronic hypertension. This accounts for 15% of all strokes. It's not common like the ischemic stroke, but it's very fatal. And whether the stroke is hemorrhagic or ischemic, how we can localize the stroke, and how we can localize the specific artery that is getting involved. And for this, I will make a simple illustration covering the essential points. So how we can localize the stroke? So as we can see, there is a human being, and this human being containing letters. So the first letter is P in his eyes, and the letter P is for posterior cerebral artery, because the posterior cerebral artery supplies the visual area in the occipital lobe. So any injury or damage or stroke in the posterior cerebral artery will lead to visual field problems or visual field loss, mainly, not only. And the second letter is M, which is for medial cerebral artery. The medial cerebral artery supply the Broca's area in the frontal lobe and the motor area. Any damage to the medial cerebral artery will lead to speech problems like aphasia and hemiparesis. And it's better to know that the hemiparesis will be significant in the upper limb. And the third letter is A, and it's for anterior cerebral artery. The anterior cerebral artery supplies the motor area, mainly the lower limb or the legs, and it's also termed as the leg arteries. Sensory and motor supply. Any damage to the anterior cerebral artery will lead to hemiparesis in the lower limb. The second thing about this artery is that it supplies the paracentral lobule, which is the center in our frontal lobe, which send inhibitory signals for the sphincter that is responsible for normal urine voiding. So when there is a damage for the paracentral lobule, there will be urine incontinence. So simply, this is how we can localize a stroke clinically.